Hello everyone, I'm Mark Stahl, and today I'm going to be rectifying a pretty big mistake I made in the Can We Make Sword Art Online Today video on the matter of the game's design. There's a part of Sword Art Online's mythology and its nature that is actually rather difficult to replicate in our era with current design techniques. In Sword Art Online, people die when they are killed. It may seem like I've pointed out the obvious, but the circumstances behind why these people die is interesting in that of itself. The Sword Art Online franchise has a heavy theme of death all throughout its works. There's the death game that is Sword Art Online, the confrontation of video game death to real death in Alfheim Online, the lurking threat of reality's intrusion on fantasy with the Death Gun incident in Gun Gale Online, the acceptance of the fact that one can be an agent of death, seen in Xenon's storyline and the purge of the murder guilds in Sword Art Online, and the continued presence of Death's agents and the continued problems with the Laughing Coffin Guild. All of these things, written in by Reki Kawahara into the stories, seem to emphasize a theme of death. Most of these things are things that we've already encountered in our times, or have a decent corollary to, but the death game Sword Art Online achieves something with its application of real-life death to virtual scenarios that others don't. It forces us to see both the normal view of death and the video game view of death within one setting, and it takes things even a step further by letting us see what it's done to those under its wings. This is rather different as a proposition to the rest, because most gamers, and thus its audience, have a skewed view of death within a game compared to the average person. This creates a highly visible juxtaposition that we, the audience, see and feel at times, even on a subconscious level. Nothing in normal games of our times, or in terms of design in my knowledge, has achieved this effect. Permadeath is as close as we can get to such a mechanic, but even then, the consequences don't leave enough of an impact. It doesn't mean that you'll never play the game again, it just means you'll have to start over. Even deleting the player's copy is a matter of money, no different than operating a coin-op arcade machine. Such a small impact doesn't compare to the sacrifice of time, freedom, and safety the death game brings. While I can think of a few ways to deal with the issue, that's a matter for another time. Today, I want to have a look at what kind of impact the feature had in terms of gameplay and its impression on the players seen within the story of Sword Art Online. The thing that a permadeath-like feature like we have in Sword Art Online's Real Death is one of increased gravity. Everything suddenly has more meaning. Choices in equipment, tactics, sociability, and progression could mean the difference between life and death, joy and suffering, love and hate. Naturally, some players adapted quickly. Many didn't and ended up dying for treating the world like any other MMO. Survival of the fittest was just reinstated within this game. The return of the law of life clashed with the typical fun-seeking and grind of MMOs to create a form of new culture for the game. During fights, safety is now key. Outside of battle, small pleasures are God. These adaptations are worthy of note, and I think by examining them further, we'll be able to learn more about the way video games affect us as players when we play them. In response to the risk of paralysis and enemy AI, players begin to travel in parties more often to form a safety net against potential death. This, by extension, slows down the leveling process, as players can't just grind till they die, and/or have to have enough HP left to make the trip back home. This increased dependence on team play brings one's reputation into the fore as a significant stat to keep track of, as having a poor reputation can force a player into solo play, an extremely difficult thing to achieve. This, by extension, discourages players from killing others and encourages helping each other out on a whole. This is where some of the nicer aspects of the system begin to present themselves. By having to help each other, players may be able to actually form deeper bonds than they typically would be able to under normal circumstances. This is shown in the development of relationships between the characters Kirito interacts with, as well as in the whole murder case in the area story arc. This also serves to sweeten the joys felt in successes on a level much more reminiscent to real-life successes that games so often wish to emulate. This technique seems to do what game developers have wanted to do for a long time. Make players take games as seriously as they do reality on every level. Well, that just about does it for this little analysis. This barely really scratches the surface of video game gravity design, though I'll say I learned a lot about it myself just by doing this analysis. If you like this little brief analysis, do subscribe, as we'll probably be doing a lot more stuff like this on the channel over time. Well, thank you very much for watching, and we'll be back with another video real soon.